coming from, and also with Merlin Silva, who's another Ableton certified trainer based in Aarhus in Denmark. And yeah, both of them are here to show us and to, well, show us a lot of things that are happening around Live 11, the new release. And but mostly it's an occasion to develop like a short introduction about music making and how to look at your music making journey. Usually we would have done this in real life, and we are, of course, very sorry not to be able to share a drink together at the end of this session. Surely this will be possible again soon, and really looking forward to come and do that kind of thing in real life soon. So I'll hand it over soon to Rasmus. I just want to quickly show you how to interact in this webinar. So the chat is just for general interaction, general chit chat, reactions, whatever you have on your mind. However, if you have specific questions that you want to ask to Rasmus or Merlin here, please do so in the Q&A section. So it's down at the bottom of your screen on the right side. There's a Q&A section where you can ask your questions. You can also read the answers to previously answered questions, and you can even upvote questions from other people so that they get more likely to have an answer. With that, I'm just going to quickly paste another link to another survey. We'd like to ask you your opinion about this webinar, just to understand how we did and how we can improve that format. So I just posted a link to the chat, and I'd greatly appreciate if you could take like 5 minutes of your time at the end of the session to just let me know, let us know how we did, and how we can improve, or topics that you would like us to touch on next time we do this kind of event. And with that, I'll hand it over to Rasmus. Thanks a lot and enjoy the session.
Cool. Thanks, Antoine. Yo, everyone, welcome. We are almost to full capacity here. It's great that you want to tune in and check out music making here in Ableton Live 11 with us. I'm really excited to go over these new things here. And yeah, as Antoine said, don't hold back to use the chat. Let's get a jolly banter going here. Merlin and I will answer your questions in the Q&A section along the way, and I will try to push my brakes. Oh, Antoine, do you mind muting your mic? Boom. I'll try to do some pauses along the line and catch up on the questions, but it's something that Merlin, he can answer along the way, then he'll answer along the way. So we'll go for about an hour and 20 minutes now to 7:30. And then we're going to do a Q&A section where we really can go in depth with the things in Ableton Live, some of the things that I've showed, or maybe there's some things that I didn't show. And Merlin and I will do our best to answer your questions. Cool. So in the chat, anyone who is completely new to Ableton Live, can you give me a shout if you're totally new to Live? Write in the chat what's going on, so I have an idea. That's cool. We're getting some hands up. You can find the chat if there's an icon you can find that's called the chat. Got one called HP, Secret Almost New. Yep. Okay, awesome. Yes. Familiar with Cubase and Pro Tools, but Ableton just a little bit. Well, everyone's welcome here. We don't judge. Don't worry about it.
Rasmus, if I can interrupt, just one thing that just slipped my mind.
Yes.
We are doing this session, and the session that happens tomorrow is a continuation of this session. So if you're new to music making and feel like you'll have a lot to learn, don't miss tomorrow's session. I'll be posting the link to register in the chat in a minute. Go ahead, Russ. Sorry.
Thanks, Antoine. Yeah. So yeah, this is a two-way seminar, and today we'll look at how to get a tune going, how to get an idea out of my face and into the program, and then we'll try to see how far we can take that idea, how refined it'll be at the end. And then tomorrow we're going to be going more in depth with how to arrange this idea and actually make more or less a finished composition that I can send to my friends or put online on the internet or whatever else I might do, play it in my car. All right. Thank you, everyone, for writing in the chat. It's nice to see we have so many newcomers here. I'll start fairly slow. And again, if there's something that you want to see covered, then use the Q&A section for our show. And yeah, let's just get into it. Yeah, so what you're seeing here is the is Live's interface, and it's built into it's organized in different sections. And here in the main window, I have my music making spreadsheet. I kind of like to look at it like that. So we have the channels, which are columns next to each other. And right now I have 2 MIDI channels and 2 audio channels. This is the default template that Live opens up with. And I can see that I actually did a little bit of tweaking here. So let me just reset this. Cool. All right. So those of you who come from the world of video editing or maybe another digital audio workstation like Cubase or Pro Tools or Logic, if I press the tab key on my keyboard or the icons here on the side, like the horizontal ones or the vertical ones, then you can see the timeline which we have in here. And this is maybe a more traditional, I guess we can call it that, way of looking at music, where when I press play up here, you're going to see my counting here in bars, beats, and 16ths. And up top, we have the time in musical time. So we have the bars right now, about 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. And then down in the bottom, we have the clock time or our musical time. And I can turn on the metronome up here, the separated yin and yang. And one nice thing here is that I can change the sound from the classic one to a woodblock, which I kind of prefer. And I can also change the volume of the metronome down here on the headphone icon. This is my master channel here, and it's the same one that I can change down here. So it's nice to be able to change the volume of a metronome like this. And what you can see here is that the musical time up on top and the clock time here on bottom, if I change the tempo, then obviously the time in the bottom will change because it's going to take longer to go through one bar if our tempo is slower, right? So right now it's at 120 BPM, and I have the exact same tracks here, which is now horizontal. Those are the same tracks that I see in here where they are vertical, all right? And another thing in Live here is that we have the browser. We can open up the browser on the triangle here, and the browser is also separated into sections. And first we have the collections, which are really nice. So this is like your shortcuts to whatever you might be working on at the moment. And you can have one called favorites. You can also have, like, you have different colors and you have the names. And if I hover with the mouse up here where it says edit, I can click these on and off. If I don't want to see my breaks for whatever reason, I can turn it on and off here. And I can also rename it by just right-clicking and saying rename. And the collections are really nice because you can have, for example, stuff for vocal processing, stuff for multi-channel audio, here, and your drum breaks, or maybe you're working on an EP that has a special kind of sound, and the instruments and effects you're using for that EP, those you have in a collection. So it's really nice for your workflow that we can just jump right into a collection of things that we like. So underneath we have the categories, and first and foremost we have a a selection of sounds based on their timbre. Okay, so that's what sound means. In here, I can go directly in and find all the brass I need in my life, like that, for example. Whereas if I go into instruments, this is like the other side of it. In instruments, it's all divided up into what of the native Ableton instruments we're working with. So if I wanted to find all my analog brass, then I would go into analog and brass, and then I can find it in here. So it's real nice that we're able to find it either one way or the other. We can also find everything drums in here, and the long list of things that you see here are all my drum kits. And when I click on it, I can get a preview, and the preview sound is also based on how loud my volume is down here. All right, so this controls both the volume of the metronome and also the volume of my preview. Oh, that was a good one. Cool. So up on top, if I don't want to find a full drum kit, I can load an empty drum rack like this, where I can then drag in my different drum sounds. So if I wanted to add congas, then I'd go into drum hits, conga, and then I can find all my congas in here. And you can make sure that you're hearing the preview by activating the little blue button down here. So if you're not hearing this on your computer, then this is the culprit. Cool. All right. Next up, we have the audio effects. And for those of you who come from a previous version of Live, you might get a bit of a shock when you see this, because we actually now have folder categories of the different effects. And if you like that, then let it stay. But if you don't like it, you can right click here and say, do not group in folder, please. And then we are back to the past as we know it for all the nostalgics in the house. Cool. Yes, then we have a bunch of different things here, which we won't go into, except for the templates. And this is a new really nice feature in Live 11, where I can save templates for different things. Say, for example, it would be one musical project that I always start up with a specific tempo, specific instruments, and specific effects. Then I could, whenever I have that open, I could go to File and save live set as template, or I could save it as the default set. And in here in the list, I can also right click and I can say set default live set. And then we get this little checkbox, which says that now I'm actually running template -1 as my default template. Awesome. Down underneath, we have the packs. And the packs is like your music store, which is included in the version of Live that you have. So you can find these on the website if you want, and you can listen to audio examples of whatever packs you might be looking at buying, or that are already included. And you can just open up the available packs right here and download it directly through the program, which is real nice. So you can go shopping in here. You don't even need to open up your browser. Cool. So there's one new pack that I would like to show you guys as the first one, and it's the upright piano by Spitfire Audio. And if I open up with the arrow here, and I always recommend that whenever you see an arrow in the program, just click it, because there's nice hidden goodies underneath the hood. So in this case, I want to go to instruments, and I can use the keyboard arrows up and down on my computer to go up and down, and then left and right to open up things. And then here is the upright piano, and you can see that it's marked with a yellow here, and that's because I right-clicked and I said, okay, hey, piano, you should be in my collection called yellow. And you can see that it also has the number 3. So I can just press the number 3 on my computer keyboard, or 5 or 6, and then I'm going to add it into that category, into that collection over here. Another way is to just drag and drop it and then throw it in the yellow box. And then we have everything which is yellow in here. Cool. So this piano I'm going to load onto an empty MIDI track here. And to do that, I'm just going to click it and drag it onto the track like that. Okay. So it's loading up the instrument now, and this is an instrument based on a lot of nice samples from a piano that the people at Spitfire Audio, they did. And I can now play this on push. I have push connected to my computer, and push is the instrument that Ableton also makes. So that's what you're seeing right now. And I can play the piano by pressing the keys here. Yeah, sounds real good. And I have a foot pedal connected to my push. It looks like this. And I don't see a lot of people doing this, but it's so nice when you're using a nice instrument like this, for example, that we're able to sustain the chords just like that. Ooh, very nice. Okay, so +1 for the sustain pedal. And what we're seeing now here on push is actually a piano, which is a little bit like this, except we've removed all the keys which are not in the scale. So imagine that we take the C major scale, all the white keys here, like this, and then we just take all the black keys out. Goodbye, thank you, come again. And the way we've done this here is that you have a mode called scale mode on push, and up here you can select what root note you want on these selector buttons here. We have the circle of fifth around here, so C, G, D, A, E, B, and so forth. And then I have a huge selection of scales available here. So if I just leave it now in the C major scale, we can hear that we have, that's a C major scale. So whenever I go one step to the right, I'm getting a higher degree of the scale. And when I go left, I go down in the scale degree. So it just means that I'm jumping, instead of playing the black keys here, I'm just, that's the same thing, okay? And at a certain point, I'm gonna run out of right. So here I cannot go more right, but that's why I have this green button here that lights up. It shows me that you can continue, dear user, by playing this key or this key, okay? So this is the same note, right? So like an accordion, it shows me that I can continue from here and again. Woo! Excellent. So if I count the scale steps now, I have the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth, the octave, okay? So I now know that if I go one up, it's a fourth, and there's the fifth. And if I go two up to the right, all my chess players in the house, you know this one. This is the recipe for the octave. So, great. And the ones which are lit in the blue color right here, they represent the root note. So in this case, these are the C's. They're the C's. Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna take scale now, and then I'm gonna change it to B flat major. So I changed all the root notes here from C to B. And the layout didn't change, and this is real cool because I can just, I can learn the shapes of my chords. So I'm kind of thinking like this in Tetris blocks. So first, third, fifth, that's a major triad. And then I just move this and the octave. Cool. I can do the inversions by moving this one down here. Yeah. And then this one down here. And then this one down here. Right. So it's a different way of playing piano, but it's a nice way to kind of compose with a extra seat belt and airbag and all that stuff. So now I have it in B flat major, and I'd like to just kind of record an idea. So I'm going to change over to arrangement view now, like this. And I've set a loop here to 8 bars. And what I did was just drag on the timeline here. I've selected 8 bars now, and then I right clicked and I said activate loop. So it's Command L here. And I can see that the loop is activated here. It's 8 bars long, and it starts at the first bar, the first beat, and the first 16th, right? So whenever I press play now, it's just going to run over to here and then start over again. And what I'd like to do now is try to use the new comping feature of Live to jam out a piano idea, and then hopefully there's something that's going to make sense, and we'll comp it and take out the best pieces. Okay, so if I go to my metronome and I give myself a 1 bar count in here, yeah, then when I press the record button on push now here, it's gonna count me in 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll try to play a little piece. We'll see what comes out of this. All right, wish me luck. Let's see how that went. Okay, right on. So I'm going to deactivate my metronome, and then I'm going to say, let's hear what we have on my track in arrangement view here by activating this one, back to arrangement. And then I can right click here and say, show take lanes. And now I have my different chords and the little melodies I did on top. And I can now select, so the first take here, I like the first part here. I can see that I have 4 takes in total. And if I activate the pencil tool up here like this, I can draw in the things that I would like to go up to my final track up here. So now I selected the first bar. Okay, so I did a little rest with my foot pedal, so I think I'm just going to try to select this one for the second part. Let's see how that sounds. There's a bit of foot pedal action here, but I can just drag over the other clips up here. I have total free control of all the clips here. Okay, maybe we'll save that for the second time around, but let's keep, let's try to do the first take all the way through and just hear how that sounds. Okay, I kind of like that. Cool. And if I'm happy with this, I can just hide the take lanes again. And a real nice note about this is that I can comp both MIDI and I can comp audio. And each of the clips here are totally independent. So there was a little bit of error with my foot pedal that I need to correct here. So let's just hear what happened. Yeah, here it takes a rest. So if I double click on this clip, it's going to open it up and I can now see everything that's happening here. And I can go to the automation and modulation section here. And I have, let's see, adjusted envelopes. I don't have my foot pedal here. Maybe that's the problem. So let us find foot pedal, and I'm just gonna add in the foot pedal like this, so the note should now continue. And then we'll move it over like that. And just get rid, you can see there was this very little piece here with here, that information there I don't want. Okay, so get rid of that, and maybe we extend this one so we get the first note in as well. Cool. And this one is actually also missing the first note. So I can just move this back a little bit, and you can see that it's moving the MIDI notes up here. So in this way, it's easy for me to fix a take that maybe isn't perfect. Okay, I like this. So I can move the take lanes out of the picture, and now I have these 3 clips, which now constitute my my harmonic idea. And there was one more thing here that I'd like to change, and it's this note. The velocity wasn't so high, and you can see that it's way down here, the velocity for this note. And this instrument is very sensitive to velocity. So I can just drag this up down here, and we correct a little error. Excellent. So I got my main idea down. I like that. And if we take a little look at the instrument now, the upright piano here, look at this. These are macro snapshots, and you can kind of see it as shortcuts to control the timbre of the instrument that we're looking at here. So if I play this now and I change between these different settings, notice what's happening to these controls right here. These are controls which are like they're controlling things inside of the instrument. So this might be a convoluted instrument with a bunch of effects, as you can see here. And here I just have shortcuts to control these effects. So let's try and listen to the balance one. Bright. Intimate. Oh, so that took off a lot of the highs. And then Hall. Yeah. Great. And Pad. Wow, so that took all the attack out of the sound. Nice. So okay, I like the intimate one. Let's keep the intimate one here. Awesome. And then next up, I would like to record a bit of audio here. And now I need to move away from a MIDI track and down to an audio track here. And oh no, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. So I showed you now that we have the scale functionality on push to be able to work chromatically with the scale. And the nice thing in Live 10 is that if I open up a clip here, this one, I can go in here and say, hey, clip, you should now show me a specific scale. And you should please show me the A sharp or B flat major scale. And then I can now see in highlights all of the keys which are in my scale. And if I right click, I can say that the root note here is not A sharp, but B flat. And it's going to show me all the notation in flats and not sharps. Or actually down here, you can choose if you wanted to have like whichever version of the notes that you're used to. And then a really sweet feature here is that I can actually quantize all of this to the scale, which means, again, I'm stripping away all the notes which are not part of the scale. And it's easy for me now to compose this music. And what I could do now is I could take these 3 clips. If I hold Shift and select them all, I can say consolidate. And now it's one full clip. And it's much easier for me to edit now. If I say, you, dear clip, are in the scale of this, and you are, yeah, everything is set up now. So I can see I'm in the scale, everything's honky-dory. Cool. So let's move on. Next up, I'd like to record some audio. And the audio now is coming from 2 microphones that I have connected to my sound card. And you can see my sound card out here. I have the vocal mic, which is connected to this input, and it's the one that I'm talking through here. Hello, hello, hello. And then I have another mic, which is this one, just lying down here. It's a nice mic from SonarWorks that they sent me to test out and check. And each of these are going into the audio interface. And then this is going to my headphones and to my loudspeakers. And in live, when you see EXT in or EXT out in the settings here, that means your sound card. And right now I have these two microphones connected, and if I go into configure, so you can't see this on the stream, but in configure I can go into audio settings, and I can rename my inputs, and one is going to be called mic, and the other one is going to be called vocal mic. Here, and the other one is going to be mic, so for instrument mic. Cool. And what you'll see now in the program, when I go in here and say, okay, I want my sound to come from the external input, my sound card, then I now have the option to choose my vocal mic or my mic, okay? So this one is going to be recording from the vocal mic, yeah? And the other one down here is recording from the instrument mic. And a cool thing here, which is new from, I think, Live 10 or 10 and a half, is that on push, I can go and select the audio track up here, and then I can go to mix and to input and output. And now I can say, okay, you should take the input from, I want my 3 audio track here, and you should take the input from the vocal mic, and I can now turn monitoring from, usually it's off, but I can turn it to auto. And then when I record on it, if I hold the record button here and press 3 audio, now you're going to hear my voice in double. So I'm just going to turn monitoring off while I talk, so like this. And in live, you can see that the monitor section is here. And if you don't see it, you need to turn on the input and output over here. Yeah. So if live is not showing you what you want, you need to tell it what it's supposed to show you. And if I look in session view here, you can see that it's a bit easier for me to navigate here. I can say external in, vocal mic, and then monitor, auto. And auto means whenever it's record arm down here at the bottom, it's going to play the audio through. If monitor's off, it's not going to play the audio through. And you can really hear it if I add some reverb or delay. Yeah. All right, so like that. So let's try to jam in another idea here. And I'm gonna record again in arrangement view and just kind of see if I can get something nice out of this, and we'll comp out the best parts afterwards. So wish me luck. Let's see where this goes. And I'm gonna add some effects as well here with the send effects, which go over to my return effects over here. And that means whenever I turn one of these up like this, the audio is running over here where there's just a reverb waiting to get sound. Yeah, like this. Whoops, we'll comp that out. Awesome. Well, some of that was okay. Let's try to comp some of this up and see what we get out of it. So to help myself a little bit, I'm going to take this audio track, which is called 3 audio, and I can say rename by pressing Command R or Control R on a PC. I can give it this little Twitter hashtag in the beginning and then call it harmonica, like that. And the little hashtag here makes sure that it shows the number 3 because it's number 3 on my mixer. So if I move this up next to my piano, it's now going to be called 2. And then this is going to be called 3. So this is nice for consistency. And then I have my recording here. And if I open up the take lanes once again, you can see, I can comp audio as well. I love that you're able to comp both audio and MIDI. So you can just jam everything around, jam all the stuff around, and then we select the best parts. And this was a fairly long one I did. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 takes here. And if I want to hear just one portion here of 8 bars, I can drop the speaker here, boom, and then I can hear this take if I again activate the back to arrangement for this track. I'll get back to what this means in a little bit later, like the interplay between arrangement view and session view. Okay, that was pretty nice. I like this section. Awesome. And actually, I think I'll keep this as the first part. Let's call it the A part. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the loop up here. And then I can go right click and I can say duplicate time. And it's a cool feature where we're actually taking this section that we have here and then duplicating it over. So if there was anything which was falling out of this, let's just duplicate this out here, right? And give it another color. You can just see what this does. So this duplicates time, right? So I've selected the first 8 bars, right click, and the shortcut is duplicate time. It's going to push over this yellow clip right here. Wow, this is really nice. Imagine that we're doing this A and B thing, and I already had a full outro at the end. I wouldn't have to manually insert silence, duplicate the sections over and all that. Because I can also just duplicate like regular duplicate and not duplicate time. So if I select these 2 bars and I write and I say duplicate, so Command D, it's going to override what's next to it. And I love this feature. It's really cool to arrange kind of like tape. You're splicing tape in and out and then moving things over, and that kind of workflow is nice to me. So here we have the first take, and then I'm going to comp a little bit here on the second take as well. So I want this last part to be different. Now I'm just going to solo out this track. And I can do that by pressing the S key on the keyboard if the computer MIDI keyboard is not on. And the computer MIDI keyboard here allows me to play any instrument, any MIDI instrument with MIDI. If I record on it, I can play it on the keys A, S, D, F, G, H on my computer keyboard, right? So you always have a keyboard in your backpack as long as you have your laptop. But in order to use the solo shortcut, I need to deactivate David Guetta's keyboard up here. So I select the track and I press S on my computer keyboard, and now it solos this track. And I can hear the Let's try to select this down here. This looks action-packed. So I just select it with the pencil tool, and I activate the pencil tool up here, David Guetta's pencil, or I use the B key on the keyboard. Let's see if I, whoops, sorry. Yeah, it's selected, good. And I need to take the speaker off. So now I'm hearing what I'm actually comping. And I think I didn't commit this. Okay, so another way to commit here, I was fooling myself a bit, is either I can commit the whole take by selecting it and then pressing enter. Then now I commit this to the timeline. I can always change it again by selecting something else and pressing enter. So what were we actually listening to? Oh my. That was the right one. Awesome. And now I'm going to give it a different color so I'm not confusing myself. Great. And here, let's do another version. Oh, nice. Let's work on the fade afterwards. Okay, let's try that. So I need to work a little bit on the fade here, and I'm gonna do it up here. So I've committed these two to the timeline, and let's just give it another color so I can really see that that they're changing. So this clip now gets the brown, and this one gets the green. Okay, so you can see that there's a little overlap down here. One way to do it is just dragging this over and then adding a bit of fade here. And a super nice shortcut here is, again, if David Guetta's keyboard is off, if I hold the F key on the keyboard, it's going to show me all fade positions available, right? So check it out. If I hold F now, boom, fades, fades. This is really handy, so I don't have to hover and kind of aim and find these little boxes here, which either lets me add a fade or move the fade or crop the clip like that. Yeah. So mess around with these shortcuts. They're really handy, and it's part of being a producer. It's upping up your workflow. Just like practicing your scales and your arpeggios. So let's hear how this sounds. Much better. And let's, for fun, try to commit this little part and then crossfade them over. And I can select in between the grid here by holding down the command key on the keyboard. And you can see the grid size right now is set to 1/8. And I can change it by pressing Command 1 and 2 on the keyboard. So I can make it the masks bigger by pressing Command 2 and 2 and 2 and 2, or Command 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 to make it smaller. And I can make it into a triplet grid by pressing Command T on and off. Or I can go off the grid, which we all want to do, by pressing Command 4. Okay, so now the grid is off and I can drop the marker everywhere. But a nice feature here is to use the grid to help you select a musical division, and then use Command key to select outside of that division. So now I'm going to select just this little part here. I'm going to try to commit that. And then up here, let's try to crossfade between these two. Yeah. So this is probably going to be weird, but hey, let's act like it's Friday. Yeah, once that's covered in effects and drums and all that, no one's gonna care. But one thing though is I want to add the gain on this clip. So I split the clip by dropping the marker here, and then I pressed Command E to split it. It's up in the Edit menu, and then if I double click the clip, it takes me into the clip view down here, and I can use the gain, but the gain parameter down here to increase the gain a bit, like so. And the last bit here, I would like to stretch that. And I can do that with the built-in warp engine here. And warping lets me work with audio elastically. Okay, so imagine that all this audio is on a rubber band, and I can put my fingers anywhere on the audio rubber band, and I can stretch or compress the audio. And if I hover my mouse up here where I would normally extend or shorten the clip, right? If I hold Shift, you can see that a small triangle appears. And while I hold Shift on my keyboard, I can drag this out and I can extend it. So I'm really stretching it now. And I'm doing this for, let's try to get some weird sound design out of this to just mark that we're rolling around the 16 bars. And it's gonna loop, so I'm not gonna hear this section right here. Let's try to hear this. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so let's shorten this. And let's try to hear it with the rest of the composition. And I'm gonna hide my take lanes now. Awesome. Okay, so declutter my life. Great. And I'm gonna take the volume down a bit. It's still quite high. Ah, it should have dropped down there. Maybe we fix that a bit later, but let's move on. Okay, cool. So let's work a little bit on this sound. And if I double click on the track here, it takes me to the track view. And now if I press Command F, it's going to open up the built-in search system of Ableton Live. And now I can search for the tuner. Let's try to see what notes I'm hitting. And after writing tuner up here, I can press enter and it'll take me to the results. And if I press enter again, it's going to load it onto the selected track. Excellent. And then while we're at it, I'm gonna search for EQ as well, press enter, and then I can select my EQ8 down here. And let's just cut out the very low end here because this is not a sub bass harmonica. I want one for Christmas, but I don't have one right now. I've actually seen a Finnish quartet playing only harmonicas, and one guy, totally bald, had a bass harmonica, and it was, I only saw the rest half of his face after the concert because it was this big. Like, whoop, whoop. Sounded amazing. Okay, cool. So let's just see if the tuner can read it out properly. And I'm going to use the EQ here to cut out the low end. Something like this. Okay, that's nice. Let's add something. Let's add some crazy effects to this and see what happens. I happen to know that there is a preset called Blues Drive, and it's an amp preset. All right, so it's the audio effect called amp in here. And if I press the recycle button here, it shows me that. Let me take the search away. Here, show in places. Then it says core library, audio effects, amp, and blues drive. Okay, cool. And now it sounds like this. Too much, right? So I like this. I'm gonna turn the volume down a little bit more. Yeah, excellent. And I can also see down here, okay, it's a bit loud. So I need to turn the volume a bit more down so we're not distorting. And then turn it back up here. Let's do some proper gain staging. That's better. Cool, okay. So I like this blues drive, and I would also like to add a couple of more effects here. And let's add an auto filter. And the auto filter just cuts out, right now, the high frequencies. And I want to use the distortion of the auto filter in here as well. Yeah, and then I'm gonna use the LFO here to just slowly move the filter here to create a bit of movement, all right? So it's gonna just move like this at the frequency I've set here, so like 1/10 of a second-ish. And then I'm gonna add a, what do we need? We need a reverb. Yeah, we need a reverb on it. And we'll get to the hybrid reverb a bit later. And here for my reverb, I only want it to happen on like the upper mids and the highs here. And let's up the delay time a little bit and have it like this. And now I can turn down the synth effects that I used up here. Okay, cool. And of course, we need the new chorus ensemble, which sounds amazing. And the chorus ensemble, it's a new effect in Live 11, and it has a chorus, a 2-line chorus, and it has an upgraded 3-line chorus in here, and it also gives you the possibility to do vibrato. All right, so I'm going to choose the ensemble here, and I'm going to say we need a low cut of about 120 hertz, so it's not going to act on the low end, which shouldn't really be there because I cut it out here. But then again, I added a bunch of distortion here and reverb. So I just want to make sure that I'm not getting any of that. And then I can play with the feedback, and let's try to hear what it sounds like now in solo. So this is too much, right? Well, I like this. Okay, awesome. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna select the last effect here, the chorus ensemble, and I'm gonna hold shift and mouse wheel over. I could also move the window down here on my track, and then I'm gonna, while I hold shift, I'm gonna select the blues drive, and now I can group this into an audio effect rack. And this is a really powerful thing of Ableton Live. To those of you who are new to Ableton Live, we can create our own tools here. And if I open up the top one here, every time you see an arrow, push it. Every time you see a round ball like this, push it. So we can activate and deactivate it like this. And now I have these shortcuts that I showed earlier in my piano here, right? These are the same things, but I haven't linked them to any particular parameter yet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna map this one, the filter frequency, and I'm aiming for the parameters which matter the most. So I want frequency and resonance here to be accessible from the macros here, right? So I'm creating my own little audio effect here. And furthermore, why don't we also map the space? I want to send this to outer space. So I'm mapping this to macro 5. And I also want the drive here. I want this map to macro 6. And then for kicks, let's map this blues. No, sorry, this chorus ensemble. So we're gonna map the feedback and the amount here, and the dry wet. Let's put that to 7. And I think that's it. Let's see what we got here. All right, so I'm gonna rename these because I don't remember what amount and feedback is when I open this up tomorrow. So I can right click here, I can give it a color, I can right click and I can say rename, and we can call this filter hertz. And now I press tab on the computer keyboard while I'm in rename, and I can say filter Q, and I can say chorus amount and chorus feed. And then we have space, which was the dry wet of my reverb. And we have driver. And then, oh, what was this? This was chorus percent. Yeah, so that was the dry wet. And this was, oh, I can right click and I can see that it's mapped to the amount over here. Wow, okay, so there's an amount and there's a dry wet. That's a bit confusing, but whatever. And now I can give these appropriate colors, and I'm gonna keep the chorus ones in the more purpley suit. And then my space is always blue and my driver is usually orange. Okay, cool. So I can close up my instrument now, my audio effect rack. And now, I'm missing the chorus speed, right? Where's that? Where you at? The rate. That was the one I was missing. Macro 8. So this is now chorus rate like this. Awesome. Yeah. Spacey. Okay, cool. So I can add more macros to this if I want to by using the plus sign, or I can declutter by choosing the minus sign if only I want a chorus amount and the filter parameters here, and of course feedback. But now I want all 8 macros, and these also show up. This is really cool. These also show up on push if I go to device. So I have full-on access of this audio effect rack that I've made now with filter hertz, filter Q, chorus amount, and it says all the names here. So I love to use these macros and push to create my own performative instruments. And I think you should do that too, because it's awesome. Yeah. And this one I can rename and say RK, what was this? Harmonica rack. Cool. And this one I can now save into my user library if I press the disk button here and press enter, and I can reuse this. Yeah, cool. So another nice thing here is that I can open up the snapshots. And if I listen to this now and I press the random button here, it's just going to select random parameters down here of the effect. And I can save it by pressing new when I find something nice. So we'll call this Dirty Drive. and we'll call this thin air. Let's try to make one ourselves.
Hey Rasmus, Merlin here.
Yeah, we'll call this drunk. Yeah, what are you saying, Merlin?
Hey Rasmus, how's it going? Some attendees are finding it hard to follow the mouse. They're experiencing a bit of lag. So Jimmy Fopp suggested that maybe you could take a bit of time to explain where the mouse is and kind of what exactly you're clicking on for those that can't see it so well.
Yes, of course. Well, apologies for the technical troubles here. I'm working down here on the audio effect rack, and there's a random button here that I can select, and that's what I'm working on right now. I'm trying to generate these macro snapshots that I can recall just the same as what we had with the upright piano here. So I'm just mimicking whatever the sound designer did here, and this is it with the harmonica. Let's move on, and thanks for tuning in, Merlin.
Cool. No worries. Actually, before you move on, Mikas has just posted a question that I think would be great for you to show right now.
Yeah.
Mikas asked, how do you set the ranges for the macros that you've made? So for instance, if you only want to turn something to 70%.
Yes, great question. Thank you. So if we open up the map section here, then in the browser, I can now see all the parameter controls of my effect rack. And you need to open the browser in order to see that. I'm clicking the arrow way up on top to the left. And here, for example, my filter hertz goes down to 26, which is way too low. So I can set this to 150. So I'm not going to cut away all the sounds. And at the same time, I want my drive to be 6 dB minimum and 14 dB maximum. And the Q should only go to, let's say, 108. And I always want a little bit of space, so I'm going to set this to 15%. And I also want 10% of chorus and 10% of chorus amount, and minimum 10% of chorus feed. Awesome. So in this way, and this is super powerful, thank you for pointing that out, that I cannot go into oblivion here. I cannot totally mute out my sound. Okay, so I need to set this to, let's set it to 400 hertz as the minimum. There we go. Yeah. And then I can just random away. Wow. Let's save this one. Crazy weird. Wow, amazing. Okay, I like the dirty drive. I'm gonna keep it like that. But it's really cool that I don't need to save a new version of my instrument for each of these nice settings, which I had to before. But now I have these two melodic ideas, and now I would like to add some drums. And in order to add the drums, I can go into my yellow here, where I've pre-selected some drums, and I have one called Midnight Rider, which I think sounds cool. And if you want to find the same one, you can say Show in Places here. And this is part of the Drum Essentials pack, which is part of Live Standard and Live Suite. So you can download this if you already own Live Suite or Standard. You can get this directly in the packs area that I showed you earlier. And then the Midnight Kit here, I can drag this onto the MIDI track, like so. And now I can program away my drums, or I can try to capture a performance that I'm doing. And for this particular one, let's try to use the computer MIDI keyboard. Just let's say I don't have the push with me at the moment. And now I can activate David Guetta's keyboard here. And when I play on the keyboard, you can see that I'm playing away from where the drums are, right? So I need to use the Z, as in Zorro, key to change my octave down. Imagine that I have a drum set in front of me, but I'm playing over here, so I'm just hitting air. And I need to use the Z or the X key to change the octave down or up in order to play at the right octave where the drums actually are, okay? And now, here I have my drums. It's lagging a little bit here, so bear with me when I do this recording. Let's hope it goes well. So I'm gonna press play. I'm just gonna try to jam a little bit, and then let's try to capture this with this functionality up here. So I'm gonna add the metronome and make sure I'm playing both tracks. Cool, yeah. Okay, it's lagging way too much on the computer MIDI keyboard. Let's try on push. Yeah, it's better on push. Sorry about that. It's lagging too much. I can't. Does not work. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing on push. Just press play. And then I'm gonna hold record and press new. So this captured a bit of the performance that I did. And if I double click it, I can see most of the jam that I did. So what's crazy about this is that Ableton Live actually has built-in machine learning. Who would have thought your music software has machine learning? And it's constantly reading all the MIDI information which goes into the program, and it remembers it over a certain time period. And this I can use if I forget to press the record button, for example, like I did now. I was just jamming. Then I have all of the information that I did with the things in the beginning that I don't like, but I'm just going to manually comp this out. So not using the comping feature, but just kind of deselecting the things that I don't like. And then I can move this over, and let's try to hear if it sounds well with the rest. Take the metronome off. And let's give it some reverb here over on the send A. Oh, I'm missing 2.5 bars here. So what I can do is I can cut this here by using Command E, and then move this section over to the last bit. And then I'll copy over one of these sections. Maybe let's copy over this section. And I select it with time here with the mouse, and I can do Command C to copy, put my marker here and press Command V. And now I have this clip right here. And I would be able to do the same thing on the computer MIDI keyboard, or if I have the clip view open here, I can just add in the MIDI notes directly down here by, if I zoom in, by moving the mouse here where it becomes a magnifying glass, I can click and drag up and down like this. And then if I want to add another note, let's say, what does this one sound like? I don't know. But if I activate the preview here, I can click it and I can hear it. Okay, so this is the kick drum. And again, here we have the grid, and I can use Command 1 and Command 2 to make the grid bigger and smaller. So usually we work in 16ths. And if I wanted to add another kick drum here, for example, here, I would just double click and it's going to add in the kick drum. And let's try to hear what this sounds like. So I'm going to select the whole clip up here like this, and then press play, spacebar on the computer up here. So it's going to start. Cool. Okay, I like that. That's pretty cool. Awesome. So I got my backbeat down, my kicks and snares and hi-hats, and I got some melodic material in here. And what else can we add? Well, let's try to add some. Let's try to add a little bit of effects on the drums here. So if I double click on the drum track here, I can see that I have my kit and I have these macros again over here. So I could just try to use some of these in here. I could use the saturate. I could use the comp for compression. I could add some delay. Okay, that's pretty nice. I think I'm gonna use the effect which is called drum bus. And again, I can find this in the browser either under audio effects, and then I can never remember where this one is. Yeah, it's under drive and color. So I can drag the drum bus down here, way at the end of this drum rack. So the way this works is I have the incoming MIDI here, and then I have my drum kit, which I can open up on these buttons here, however much I want to see of information. And then afterwards I have the next effect, and the audio is running from left to right. So first it goes into the drum kit, and then it hits the drum bus, and then it comes out on the end of the channel. And then I have the audio fader that I can control here on this track. Cool. So this one has a boom section here, and that's gonna add a resonator on top. So imagine that I take my drums and I put them on a huge rubber circle, and then whenever I hit one of these drums, it's gonna go into this rubber circle, which can make some boom, some really nice boomy effects. So I'm gonna solo it, the drums, and just listen to what it sounds like when I add the boom. Nice. And I can tune the boom. And I'm gonna tune it to an F, which is the 5th in B flat. And then I'm gonna fix it to the F and take a little bit of the decay and boom off. And I can always bypass the effect by deactivating here. Yeah, let's take a little bit less boom. And then let's hear it with the rest. Okay, awesome. Let's stop for a little bit and see what's going on with the Q&A. Merlin, what you got? What you got for us?
Everything's pretty quiet at the moment. Just enjoying your really cool harmonica and drum beats going on. Yeah, we don't have anything at the moment. We had a few questions. Mika's also asked a little while ago about the sustain pedal when you were doing comping. And
Yes.
he was asking, how does it work when you kind of start comping and moving things around with the sustain pedal? In the case that sometimes it's not on and sometimes it is. Could you kind of talk about how you deal with that and how you record your comps with a pedal?
Yeah, well, this is a bit fidgety because whenever we take clips in different places, it might not always be that the sustain pedal is at the right position. So once I've done my general comp where I have the MIDI notes correct, I can go into the automation mode up here. And when David Guetta's keyboard is off and I press the A key on the keyboard, it takes me into automation mode. And then I can see automation for each of the tracks here, and I can select the automated parameters here. And let's see, where are you? Oh, I might be actually be, oh, I think I'm remembering this wrong, sorry. I need to, I thought you could see it there, I'm remembering it wrong, pardon me. So I have the two clips here, and what I need to do now is I need to join these two clips together. And to do that, I can select the first clip here, and then hold Shift and select the second clip. I can right click and I can say consolidate. And if I double click the clip now, I can go in here into the modulation and automation section. And in here, I can see the MIDI control for my foot pedal. And I thought that I was able to see this in here. Nope. My memory eludes me. Okay, but you can see it in here. And the nice thing about this is when you've consolidated it, then you don't need to click into one clip and the other clip and then the other clip. And you can see my sustain pedal here is definitely not the way it should be. So I'd have to sit and redo this, or maybe I would just overdub the sustain pedal. So if I add MIDI overdub here and I record this clip, and I press record, I could manually do it. So I did it for the first half now. And let's see if I double click the clip. And let's show the envelopes. I'm sorry it didn't record it. I don't know if it's acting up weirdly. But this would be the way that I would fix it. I would have to probably manually do it like this, or I would have to record. I would edit it in here, so I can select time here by holding Shift and using the arrow keys, and I can do Command C, then move over, Command V. It's a little tedious to do it like this, so there really isn't like the super nice version. I can use the arrow keys as well to draw it out just before each part here. And then again, by using the grid, I think maybe this is a faster way to do it. It's a little hacked, but it could be something like this. Let's try to hear what this sounds like. Whoop, a little duck. We'll move it over. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, cool. Okay, so I would like to mess a little bit around with some of the new effects here as well. And one in particular I think is cool is the spectral resonator. And let's try to add that to the harmonica track. So if I go to the harmonica track here, I can fold in my instrument rack here, and I can search for spectral resonator, and I can drop it down here. And this is a crazy effect, and I'm not going to go in depth with what it does. There's a lot of amazing YouTube videos with it. But imagine that it's a bunch of filters, like the resonator I talked about before with the big membrane and the drums, where this is based on something else than the membrane on physical modeling. But just think of it as something you can use to add like another audio image on top of what you have here. And I want to add the audio image of the upright piano. So now all these filters in the resonator, they're going to be tuned to the MIDI of the piano. If I used it internally, and let's try to listen to this, then it's going to add a fixed frequency here. Let's go back to thin air. And it sounds insane. It's also totally on wet. But if I turn it over to MIDI and take the MIDI from my upright piano track and then switch it from being mono to polyphonic here, then let's try to hear what it sounds like when we take the piano notes here and add them on top of the filters in the spectral resonator here. So I'm turning down the dry wet and I'm adding a bit of unison. And let's see if we can get this to sound a bit nice. So I'm getting, just fiddle with it until it sounds nice. And then with the drums. And then I'm gonna put it to chorus, of course. Awesome. And then the last thing is I want to just record a little bit from this kalimba that I got, because I'm gonna try to do a little crazy thing with that. So I'm gonna use the second mic that I have now, and it's this mic right here. Let me just check the pictures right. There we go. It's this mic which is right here. And let's just record arm this one. And record arming means that it's getting the audio, as I mentioned before. Hello. And now we can also hear it. So I'm going to shut up and just play, and let's add some effects to that. this kalimba is tuned weirdly. It doesn't, the tuning is not right on everything. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the tuner here, and then I can see if I'm more or less right. And some of these notes were totally off, and that was a little bit of the point. But with the tuner, I can fix some of this. Oi, that one. Oh my God, did you hear that, Merlin? So I'm gonna select this here, and I'm gonna take it out with the Command E. And then what I can do is I can see that this is plus 16 cents sharp. So if I double click on the clip, I can go in here and see, either I can transpose in whole semitones, and I'm changing it by clicking the parameter and then using the up and down arrow on my keyboard. But what I want here is I want to take it down minus 16 cents, okay? So we have 50 cents on one semitone and 100 cents on a full note, a whole step. So let's see if this is better. Yeah. Oh, that one was bad as well. So I'm going to take the grid off and just mark this one, cut it out. So it's a different way of comping. And let's take this down 14 cents like this. So it's auto-tune for the kalimba. Great. And let's just have a look at what we got here. Okay, and I'm gonna take the last F as well. And here's a nifty little shortcut. Since I want to work only on this, I can select a bit of time here with the mouse, and then I can press the Z key, again without David Guetta's keyboard, and it's gonna explode in once in the time axis. And then if I press C again, it's gonna explode in on the width, I think, of the track. And now it's easier for me to see what I'm doing. I'm gonna take the grid off, and again, just select this part here, cut it out, and oh, this was 12 cents. It needs to be taken down. Great. Okay, and I can press X again 2 times to get out of this explosion mode. Awesome. So what I'll add here again, since it's an audio recording, is the EQ8. So I'm searching for the EQ8, and I'm going to cut out just the bottom end. And then the very last part of me pressing like stop recording, I'm going to take out as well. There we go. And what I would like to do with this now is I want to consolidate this into an audio clip. So we did it before with the MIDI. And here it's especially necessary that I don't just select the time here, because then my loop is not going to be a full 16 bars. So I want to select the whole range here. I want the silence at the end, and I want the silence at the beginning. And I can use the Command J consolidate feature here, and then it's going to print this to an audio file. And this audio file, I could now drag it into session view, for example. So if I grab the clip here, I can move it up here to the vertical lines, and I can drop it on the track here. And I'm going to rename this track and call it hashtag kalimba, kalimba, like this. And then I'm going to call this clip kalimba loop, like so. And if I double click on it, I can tell it to loop down here. Awesome. And when I start this now, it's just going to loop. So it's basically the same as down here. But if I deleted something on the timeline here, the clip would still play where it would say silence here. Yeah. So I'm playing the clip here on the same track, the kalimba track. And it might be a little bit confusing, but it's pretty handy if we need to try out different things. So I can go back and forth between session view, playing the clip in session view here, and playing the clip in arrangement view by re-enabling the, or saying back to arrangement here on this button right here. So you can see the clip is not playing now up here on the clip because the arrow is not green. And then now if I play from here, there's going to be silence in this part. Yeah, but I actually want that to play again, so I'm going to extend the clip all the way out. Cool. And then for this kalimba as well, I want to use an effect rack that I made earlier, and it's a pretty crazy one. It's called RK Kalimba Live 11 rack, and this one I can drag down here. So I saved it in the same way as I showed with the harmonica one here, the harmonica rack. And this one has a bit of the same effects that we used before, and it's just to add a little bit of action. Turn the volume down, and there's probably too much drive going on here as well. And then the last one here, oh, I need to fix this. It goes up. This here, it says it goes to kind of A flat. Let's just try to take it down a bit. Let's take it down -12, which is an octave. Okay, let's try to hear that. And then it's off. Let's hear. Wow. -16 again. Much better. Okay, cool. So I promised to show you very quickly the hybrid reverb that we can use, and I need this recording here on the hybrid reverb, and I want to add the hybrid reverb on my drums here. So if I go to the drum track, I can search for hybrid reverb and add it in. And this is a crazy effect. So right now it has both a convolution engine, which is like taking the fingerprint of a sound and superimposing it onto another sound. And then it can feed that sound into a pretty expressive reverb here with 5 different algorithms. And it's a bit of a mix between Merlin, what's the one called that takes the impulse responses?
Convolution reverb.
Yes, exactly, the convolution reverb, which we have in here. So this is just straight up convolution, wherever it moved to now. I always just search for them. Delay and loop, convolution.
I think it's a Max for Live device.
Yes, it is, and it's part of the suite. So we can find it in here. Yes, really, really nice reverb. So this one has both of them. And right now it has a impulse response of the Ableton Studio playing backwards. And what I would like to do here is I want to take the recording of my kalimba and then put this into the convolution reverb. So I'm going to go to the drum track here, and then I'm going to drag the audio file down here. And then when the drums play now, it's probably going to sound weird. I'm just going to play only the impulse response. So here I can choose between playing the algorithmic reverb and here the convolution reverb. And let's put it all the way up. So now we're only hearing the reverb. And every time a drum hits now, you can hear the sound of the kalimba being superimposed. Which it's a weird effect, but you can get some cool stuff out of it. You could also record yourself saying something or singing, or yeah. We can change the size here. If I change the size to 200, it's going to go down 1 octave. Let's add a bit of vintage, because why not? And then maybe it was distorting a bit. And let's use this one to take a bit of the transients out. Maybe take the boom out as well. Now we added this. And then let's add in the algorithmic reverb and choose the one called Shimmer. So we're distorting a little bit, so we need to take the send down. This is how much input is going into the hybrid reverb. But check out this sound. I mean, it's weird and I like it. And what we can do is I can record this sound. So if I make a new audio track by right-clicking here and saying Insert Audio Track, I can say that this audio track should now take its sound from the Midnight Rider. So not from a microphone, but record it from this track and take it from a post mixer. So this is after all the effects. And this is important because I want the effect of the hybrid reverb in here. So what I'm doing here is I'm resampling inside of my program. And I need to record on this track now. And I'm going to press stop to go back to the beginning to 111. And then I'm going to press record. And maybe mess a little bit around with the settings of the hybrid reverb. So those settings are now going to be recorded into the track down here. Let's take the pitch. Instead of adding +12, let's do -12. And some more modulation. And then some feedback on the pre-delay. And this is actually kind of like a comb filter effect for those of you who are into that kind of stuff. Cool. And again, I'm just messing around, and I can use the take lanes here to comp in the things that I like. And I think I would like the first part here, and then take the last turnaround here, so I don't have silence in the beginning. And let's try to hear what this sounds like if I go back to my drums now and then dial this craziness a bit back, and then we can hear it with this resampled version now. And I'm gonna add an EQ here as well because I want to always be somewhat in control of my frequencies. Let's just hear in solo. And let's add in some nice things. Yeah, and then we add a compressor as well to make the dynamics, the difference between the lowest volume sound and the highest volume sound a bit less, and then up the gain. So I want this to be an atmosphere. Yeah, cool. And let's just see for fun, if we take the spectral resonator here, I can copy this, and then I can paste it down here. So it's going to take the MIDI again from the keys track and add on top of this, and let's hear how this sounds. And then we can dampen the low frequencies here, which means the low frequencies are going to disappear faster than the high frequencies, and I like that. And then let's do this 1 octave up. Wow, I like this as an atmosphere. Let's try to hear everything in context. I could work a little bit more on my kalimba, but that's for tomorrow. Definitely I could work on some of the tuning there. I'm actually just going to take this part out. I don't like it. And I can disable it by just pressing the 0 key. There we go. Time is up. This is all we get for today. But tomorrow we continue the show, and you are all cordially invited to participate in the second round that we do tomorrow. Now we'll move into the Q&A part of the webinar. If there's any questions or comments, then fire away now in the Q&A section or in the chat.
Hey Raz, sounding great. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Nothing, no open questions at the moment, but keep them coming, everybody. But I wanted to cycle back to one. We've had a few questions asking about music theory and some
Yes.
quite general questions on good ways to learn it. One thing I thought would be cool for you to show them is some changes that have happened in clips in writing MIDI. So maybe you could show how you could write in A sharp minor without really knowing what A sharp minor is.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's, for fun, add a. I'm gonna add a new MIDI track here, and let's do the what do you call it? The paralleltonarten, the opposite key of the, like the relative minor to the B flat major that we have here. So I can select all the time here. I can right click, and I can say insert empty MIDI clip. And if I double click on the clip now, I see the details of the clip. And in here, I could say scale again, and I could say G sharp minor here. And now I have the relative minor to the major. And if you don't know what that means, it's totally cool. It is every scale and key that we have has a opposite scale and key. So if we look at, not that this is going to turn into a music theory lesson, but someone has their mic on. Antoine, can you turn off your mic, please? So if we look at the keyboard here, then if I have all the white keys here, we start at C. Then this is C major, but if I start instead of C, D, E, F, G, A, here, it's the same one here. If I start at A and play, then it's the relative minor, and it's the relationship between the keys here that determines that it's a minor and not a major. So each major key has a corresponding minor key, which is using all the same keys. I'm not adding any black keys here, but it's actually still a minor key. So that's what I'm utilizing here. And now I can write a bass line, for example, in the relative minor here. So if I select the it's not G sharp, it's just G minor, right? And if I don't remember or know this, I can just look it up at Wikipedia. I could look up B flat major, and it'll tell me what the relative minor is. Cool. And then if I set scale here, now I only have the keys in the scale. And what I can do now is I can make my grid a bit bigger, and then I can load in, let's take an operator, good old operator. And this is just going to play a sine wave bass. So I'll record on the wrong track. There we go. There we go. And inside the clip now, I can find a note that I think sounds cool. And let's add a little bit of distortion here. There we go. And so I think I like this one. And I can just add in a MIDI note here. And while double clicking and dragging to the right, I can extend the length of the note here. So I can make it 2 bars now. And then let's try to listen what this sounds like together with the keys. And if I hold down Command, I can solo 2 tracks on and off. I can solo more tracks here if I want to. So I'm gonna move this down. I don't care what it's like. If it's a C1, I'm just listening to how it sounds like with the piano. Yeah, this has a bit of excitement. I kind of like that. And then I can duplicate this one over by selecting it and pressing Command D. And then I could move it up a bit. And let's go down. And then up again. And then down. And then I'm going to shorten this one down. So in this way, I'm just kind of composing by ear and hearing what does this sound like. And what I usually encourage people to do when they're writing melodies in this way, where they're not caring as much about the names of the notes, is to look at figures. So here I'm going from a low note 2 steps up, 1 step down, 2 steps up, 1 step down. So this is like my formula. And I could reuse this formula for the next part. If I select all this, I could duplicate, and then it would run the same way over. But this would be boring because it's just the same thing, right? So instead I could change this up a bit. I could either use the invert function here, and it's going to flip it on the horizontal axis like this, okay? Whoop. And then I have a down going kind of like note, 2 steps down, 1 step up, 2 steps down, 1 step up. And I can hear what this sounds like from bar 9 if I press here. And let's try to add in the drums. And it's up to me to add new things in here. If I wanted to have some high notes in here, I could just activate the pencil. And let's try to add a little bit more. Let's go down. And I'm just guessing here. All right, so let's extend this one instead. Wow, that does not sound good. So I'm going to move everything down a bit. So the A is the octave to this, whoops, the A is the octave to this one. So the octaves usually go well. So I could create tension by having it on something different than the octave. And again, this is just like, take your time and mess around until you find something that you like. Okay, this does not work. Away with that. We just keep the bass line with these drones. But I could use it to add in another top line for the piano, for example, here. Anything you'd like to add on this, Merlin? Or it was specifically for working with MIDI, right? For programming MIDI.
Yeah, the participant was just looking for a way to learn about chords and chord progressions and scales. And yeah, it was a really good job showing them this scale feature so we can see everything that fits to the scale that we choose and not make horrible dissonance. But I've got a few other questions for you if you're up for it.
Yeah, let me just add one more thing to this. Cool. And say, for example, so I wrote this bass line now and it's working somewhat. There's a bunch of effects that are really good to messing around with MIDI. And if you go into the MIDI effects out here in the browser, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, then we have an effect here called scale. And if I open this up, I can find the major here. And I can drag this scale onto my MIDI track here, and it's going to be in front of the instrument. So I have operator now here, and then I have my major scale instrument here, and I would need to set this to B flat, which I can't find here, so that would be A sharp instead. There we go. So this makes sure that any incoming MIDI now is going to be in the right scale. And I could add, if I wanted to make this into chords, for example, I could add the chord effect here, and let's open up the presets and take the film noir and drop this down here. So this is going to take any incoming note and add a 2 semitone note below, a 5 semitone note above, and a 6 semitone note below, and an octave 12 semitones above. And now I'll just listen to this on its own because it might sound weird, but let's see. Yeah, and then and now it's not a bass line anymore because it's playing chords. So I can go into pitch and then add a +12, which is going to take every MIDI note an octave up. And let's say +24 instead. And let's add a little bit of reverb. So this is a way we can mess around with MIDI without knowing what the MIDI actually is doing. But if we want to learn more of the nitty-gritty parts of it, I would suggest reading up on the scale on Wikipedia and finding some YouTube tutorials on harmonies and chord progressions. And there's some pretty good articles on it on Wikipedia, actually. You could also add the arpeggiator. Yeah, and Merlin, if you have another question, I'll just play a little bit with this.
Awesome. Yeah, I've got two more. One of them's about Honkraft.
Yes.
Somebody's asking, Rasmus, is education available in English at Romkraft, and is education available online?
Absolutely, too. Yes, and you're totally right. And yeah, we're going to start an English online course soon. So if you're interested in that, I would suggest that you jump onto the Romkraft newsletter, and I will just drop a link in the chat. And on when you sign up for the newsletter, you can say that you're interested in online courses as well, and then there's a comment section, write that you're interested in courses in English, and we will shoot you an email as soon as we start this online course in English. Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah.
Cool. And I've got one more from Lucas, and Lucas asks, would you like to talk a bit about your composing process? Do you start with the beats or the melody or the chorus? What works best for you?
Oh man, that's such a good question. I actually I normally start with some harmonic material. I'll just take a sip of water. Cheers, everyone. I usually start with some melodic material, an idea to a melody or a simple chord progression, and then I usually make a beat, a simple beat on top of that, usually just with kick, snare, and hi-hat. And then once I got that going, I normally start a bass line, and then I'm probably tired of the melody at that point, so I take out the melody, but then I got a nice kick, snare, hi-hat pattern and a bass line going, so I got a groove going, and then I usually add another melodic part, which then fits the rhythm section, the bass and the beat. And looking back, that's usually what my process is like. Unless I'm working with breakbeats. So I love to do drum and bass and jungle. And if I work with breakbeats, I can also just start a track with chopping up breakbeats and getting something like that going. Yes, but good question. It is never the same. Like it's never really the same. But there are definitely some tendencies that I have. A good friend of mine always starts with spending half an hour finding the right kick drum, and then he makes a pattern, and then he spends another half an hour finding the right snare drum. And his sounds are amazing. But it's a totally different process from what I do, which is just kind of get something going and meddle around, and then we can always go back and change the kick. Cool.
Awesome answer. Wicked. I've got somebody asking, what can we expect from the session tomorrow?
Tomorrow we will look at how to take this idea that I have here and how to expand that into a full track. So I only got 16 bars here. It's about 30 seconds. So we'll talk a bit about how to make an intro, how to take what idea we have here. So let's call this the A part or the verse, and how to make a B part or a chorus to this. And then we'll also have another Q&A section where we can jump into some other things. I would love to go over MPE tomorrow as well. We didn't make that today, so we'll definitely have a look at MPE tomorrow and a bit more about working with audio loops, which are already in the program or that you can find elsewhere.
Cool. Quick one. I've got somebody asking, can you quantize 40 to 50%? They can only find 100% or nothing.
Yes, and that's a very good question. So if I go into my piano track here and I look at the MIDI, then we can change over to the notes section here. And another tip is I can hold Alt or Option on the Mac and press 1, 2, and 3 to cycle through these panes. And I'm going to fold up the notes now so that I only see the note values here that have MIDI information on them. So if I wanted to quantize all of this, I could do a Command A to select all, and then I can right click on one of the notes and I can say quantize settings. And you can't see the window right now, but in the quantize settings, I can set an amount from 0 to 100%. And let me just zoom in to a part here, which is, you can see that it's falling. This is falling a bit late, and this is spot on, and so forth. So if I select these four, and I go into the quantize settings now, and I say 100% to current grid and the start, it's going to be right on the 21st bar. So I'm going to undo, and then if I do quantize settings again and set it to 70%, I usually need about 70% of correction when I play live. Then now you can see that there's still a little bit of a humanized error, or whatever you want to call it, down here. So the quantize to a not 100% amount is definitely a nice feature to have. And it's also available on push. If you hold down the quantize button here, if you hold that down, you can say quantize amount, and then we can also add a swing amount here. So that's the same thing. Yeah.
Lovely. Awesome answer. I'm not sure if we've got time for this one or if it's something you want to pick up tomorrow, Raz, but somebody's asked, how do we do warping in Ableton Live?
Oh, yes, that's a really good question too. So like there's usually two ways to work with warping. We can use warping to make sure that something fits the metronome, right? So the metronome always counts the beats 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have the audio. And if the audio does not match up with the metronome, we have a problem when we try to run this together with a beat that we've made, which is following the metronome, right? And they're not running at the same time. So with warping, we can make sure to have the audio fall on the right time. And if I take my kalimba here, for example, let's try to zoom into this section right here. So I'm going to use the C to explode this up. And you can see that I'm not perfectly on time here. And that's okay. But if I wanted to be on time here, let me just scissor out this part here. So I'm going to use Command E to split it, and then give it another color. And then down here, you can see that I have these gray down pointing arrows, and they're pseudo warp markers. So they're suggested warp markers based on the transients, which means that there's an audio event happening here. It's a clap, it's a drum, it's the sound of a kalimba or whatever. There's an audio event happening. And with warping, I can now take this audio event here. If I double click this one, it's like putting my finger on the rubber band, and then I can move this one over to the 5. And you can see up here on the clip that when I move it, it's moving on the grid as well. And when it's on 5, it's actually spot on now here. So what I'm doing is I'm actually using the warp functionality to quantize my audio. And I can just keep doing this, so I can make this super straight. Make sure that all of these fall exactly. I'm double clicking to make it yellow, and then I'm quantizing it to the nearest quarter note. It would be, yeah, to the nearest quarter note. And let's try to hear what this sounds like now with the metronome. And let's just double team this one, because this is a independent clip now referencing the audio file that I recorded. And this clip I can drag into session view. So say I wanted to have this one going over and over and over again, I can drag it to session view like this. And I can say, well, I want to hear this now together with my drum track. So I'm soloing those two. And this is not looping, so I'm going to turn on loop. And I wanted to loop just the section that I was working on. So that was from here up until here, but that's too long. This is 2 bars. If you look at on the lowest left on my screen, you can see that it says time selection, start, end, and then length. And it says 2.0.2. So that's 2 bars, 0 quarter notes, and 2 16ths, right? So that's going to be out of phase with the other loops. So if I select this and I right click and do loop selection, now this is just going to keep running and I can go out, take the metronome off, and I can actually hear the rest of my composition, and this element is just cycling over and over. I'm gonna mute out the operator here. Let's take the harmonica out. So this could be a C part or something like that. Let's take out the piano. And with warping, I could also change it. So this one, which is falling after bar 6, I can just move it over. You can see how this is moving like an elastic band. So now I'm changing the rhythm. And then let's move this one over as well. And let's stretch it. So now I'm going to set a warp marker here by the end, and then I'm going to stretch it. And I don't care about what's outside of the loop, because I'm never going to hear that. All of this I don't care about, and I don't care about what's in front of it. And it's not changing any of the things which are after here, because this clip here, if I give this another color, is now green, and this is a different clip, right? So it's a copy of the clip that I dragged over from arrangement view. And if I duplicate this track now, I can have the same clip playing an octave above or below, and I can start using like the warping and looping to as a compositional tool. So if I take this one and say this clip, which we're going to change the color of to, yeah, that one. You should play an octave below, -12. Let's try to listen to them together. Pan them a bit, and I'm going to move the start point here, so they're going to play a little bit not in the same time, but one's going to be before the other one. And I could duplicate this again. I'm just selecting the track and then doing Command D. And this is one of the things I really love about live, that it's so easy to take a simple idea and just keep generating new stuff from it. So let's add an octave above, and let's play this in reverse. Why not? And let's add in the drums. And I mean, it's just, you can't think yourself to these kind of solutions. It's just about playing around with it, but it's so easy to throw an idea out there in audio or MIDI and then use the comping functionality or using the warping functionality to push things into a place where they're nice, or take them from a nice place and push them out where you don't really know where it's supposed to be, and then suddenly you have this cool atmosphere that you couldn't make up in your head. It comes from experimentation. And that kind of process is very dear to me, and I think that's why I've stayed with live for over a decade now, because it's never boring. I have a lot of techniques that I use and reuse, but it's never boring to me because I always come up with some new interesting sounds, and I kind of like this. And just one last thing I want to show here is that I can take this melody that I have now and I can say convert melody to new MIDI track, and it's going to analyze the audio now. And this is totally crazy that the program can do this. Oh, sorry, it shouldn't do it on all of it. I'm just going to crop this clip. So it's just this one now, not the full loop. And let's do convert melody to new MIDI track. And it's going to analyze the harmonic content of the sound, and it's going to try to generate a MIDI clip towards this. Let's see if we make it in time. And again, if you're not that good with music theory, go on to freesound.org, make an account, search for jazzy chords or jazz piano, or just search piano loops or whatever loops, and then you can find these awesome recorded samples that you can use by just crediting the author. And you can try to use this function, convert harmony. If there's more notes at the same time, you can convert harmony to MIDI. and otherwise you can just convert melody to MIDI like this. Let's try to hear what this did. Sometimes it works, sometimes it needs help. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then I could move this down by selecting everything and holding Shift and pressing arrow down. And now we have a bass line. Generated from this melody. And I could duplicate here, and we could do invert here, and then we could reverse this. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's everything for today.
Thanks so much, Rasmus. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Great session, and congrats on the great music. I've pasted a couple of links in the chat. You have a link to the Spotify page of Rasmus's meditation music project called Ambience.
Wow, thanks.
Take a minute to check it out. I've also pasted the link to our feedback form. It would be great if you took 5 minutes of your time just to let us know how we did and how we can improve on the format. Aside from, obviously we've had a video lag problem, which we'll try to fix for tomorrow's session. And yeah, I've also pasted a link to tomorrow's session. Feel free to share it around you. Feel free to, of course, register to attend if you haven't yet. And with that, I'd like to thank again Rasmus and Merlin. Thanks to you all for attending. And I'll leave the last words to you, Ras.
Yeah, big up everyone. Thanks for tuning in. It's so much fun to make music, and it doesn't matter if the weather outside is shitty. We can always just go inside and put on our headphones and make beautiful sounds. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, where we unfold this little idea into a full track. And I encourage you to try out some of the techniques that I showed today after you've had a little bit of food and some water while it's fresh in your face. And then try to use these things so you can use the things from tomorrow. And then, hey, maybe you got a new track or a remix or just new stuff that you can continue to work on afterwards. It's been a pleasure to show you this. And yeah, Rasmus from Rumkraft, stay in touch, sign up for the newsletter, and I'll see you tomorrow or at a later point down here at Rumkraft for a lab time session or online for whatever else we can find out. And thanks for setting this up, Antoine and Ableton. Yeah. And
Pleasure.
Merlin.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Cheers.